commitments, their needs, and we're taking it very seriously. And we've already done a lot of great work in SSP as it relates to that particular effort. But we're really working hard at it going forward too, and we have a lot to learn. And the sovereignty issues and working government to government is new, and we're not perfect at it yet by any means. And so some of these meetings that I'm now attending, I think will help us all do better, right? And I bring the information back to our leadership teams and whatnot. So those two meetings were really recent, very top of mind for me, and I just felt like I wanted to share a little bit about where my head's at. I also just want you all to know that, of course, our budget conversations are huge, and we are in the midst of creating our budget community engagement efforts, and you all will be a huge part of that. I know you've already heard some about that. But as we begin to think about meeting some of our internal deadlines for new legislative concepts or policy option packages, we're going to want to get with you all to talk about our ideas. So, of course, all of that is on my mind. And then the other thing I wanted to share that's on my mind is that SSP doesn't have a ton of activity at the legislature right now, other than the HR1 SNAP related items. But there is one thing that's being talked about, and many of you probably know this already, but I'll share it anyway. As most of you know, we have had an opportunity for our TANF families to not be on the wait list for ERDC, the employment related daycare. And there is a bill that's been proposed to turn off that bypass, we call it. And so we have been providing a ton of information to DELC and to the legislature about the potential impacts of that for our TANF families. And so that's one we're watching really closely, because we will need to strategize about how we support our TANF families a little differently should that particular change come to pass. So that's a big one that's at the in the session right now. So that's on my mind quite a bit. We've been doing a lot of meeting, a lot of talking, a lot of working around getting the right data so that we can tell the full impact story there. So that's what's on Claire's mind for SSP for today. I'm happy to answer any other questions if you have any other topics that you're curious about.
Anyone?
I have a question. This is Kelly Williams, CPC,
Hey
3. And my question was regarding the ICWA Advisory Council. So how can we learn more about that, and how do we become more involved in that as just an individual SSP worker, if I was interested in that?
I love that question. And we talked about that a lot yesterday, honestly, about how do we share the information that happens in one room with the other rooms where folks need to know. And I think what's going to happen is that there's going to be a group of folks getting together to talk about how to share that information very specifically. And there was nobody in the room who didn't think that we needed to do that. Just by the way, it was a very popular part of the conversation. So I think I'll have a little bit more to share about that, but you can imagine probably more will be coming here, honestly, from me to you about what I learn. And then also there will be a real intentional effort to make sure that the district managers are all sharing with district staff, very specifically things that might come up about your district in these meetings. Because some of these meetings get real specific about, what's happening with the various relationships. And so there will probably be customized information that'll be coming to you also through the leadership. And then as an individual, great question. I will ask about that, because other than sort of communications coming, through the various channels, I'm not sure about how to engage. I'm very new to that whole group. And so I will track that down, Kelly, and see what I can find out.
Great.
And then I'll reach back out to you.
Yeah, thanks. I'd love to hear more about that.
Great.
We're a big organization, so it's always about communication, sometimes internally, but we really want to hear if any of our partners have questions. We've got Claire on the line, so if not,
All right, then. Well, thank you for everything you all are doing. It's a rough time and so many demands, personally, professionally, and we're so happy you are in this world with us. Let me just say that. So thank you very much, everybody.
thank you, Claire. And I'll turn it over to Stephanie, who I see kindly on
Me?
video.
You see
Yeah,
me? Awesome. Yes, hopefully you can all see me in this lovely David Douglas School pickup line for my kids, which is where I always am at this time, the SSP meetings. Um, yeah, so I was asked to give an update on the agency request budget or ARB engagement. Um, Thank you for those of you who were able to attend our Together We Plan convenings. We had one in person in Portland, one in Salem last month, as well as a virtual. If you look in the chat, you'll see a link to our community briefings page. If you missed those, there is a digital recording of the virtual one that's online now with closed captions. So hopefully you can watch it because we gave a lot of level setting information about the budget, about the process, kind of some of the risks that we're seeing, had conversations with the community about some of the issues that you're seeing on the ground. And the next phase is really going to be around putting together what basic changes we're looking at making in terms of policy options packages or near term kind of change. And that exists between March and the end of April. And so, what we've been doing is meeting with our agency leaders to sort of think through how to best engage around those. We know that we haven't done the best job in the past during that process of being really transparent, and we want to be. So, there will be more engagement with folks likely on a program level starting in March. And we have heard budget guidance from the governor and the fiscal office that any policy options packages have to be revenue neutral. So if we're doing any change at ODHS, we have to pay for it ourselves by moving things around and not to expand, not to consider expansion dollars at this time. So we know that we're heading into a difficult budget biennium from 2027 through 2029. That's what we're planning for right now. And we're going to need your help to engage in those difficult conversations. So stay tuned for that. And I'm happy to answer any questions. We don't know how much money the state's going to have. We don't know what the budget box is going to be for our agency, but we do want to start early having those conversations with you. Any questions that I probably can't answer, but I'll try. Can't hear you, James.
maybe that is just as well. But instead, no questions about budget. We're in the throes of another fun short session, and
we won't know quite yet what the state budget looks like, but we're paying close attention. So when we know, you'll know.
does anyone have any legislation that they're keeping an eye on or want to make a pitch on here? No one has their elevator speech ready? All right. Well, think about that. And we're actually a little ahead of schedule. So I have a few things that we can talk about. I've got a few people who can help me out, but I'm going to go ahead and share some slides. We are now, as team, getting trying to have a regular deck ready that we show partners. So I'm going to be skipping around in it as I get it up and running. We have, we're the state. We're always striving for better acronyms, and this one's a pretty good one. Federal Actions Coordination Team, or the FACT team. And in this case, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. Try and clear off my screens. So, we have our basic slide that I think I'm hoping you already know about the number of people involved. And so I'm going to skip ahead a little bit and talk about some of the changes that we've been going through with SNAP. And also, please come off mute, raise your hand, put a comment in the chat, whatever, because I'm still hoping for something close to a discussion. And so, part of this is for your benefit. And so direct me where you're interested. And I'm sure wherever you're interested, there'll be a few other people that are interested as well. But as you know, the SNAP eligibility changes are upon us. There have been some updates, though. So first of all, we've got the ABOD requirements haven't changed all that much, but the populations affected do. And so as you can see here, again, with the acronyms, able-bodied adults without dependents, federal work rules, and these affect lawfully present non-citizens. And so, as a matter of fact, if people can get their applications in to become LPR, the lawfully present residents, non-citizens, then they can, again, I've been talking with the eligibility worker, but they can also go ahead and apply. So in any case, and we're also seeing the changes in the standard utility allowance. It's just so many details that we're having to run through, but I'm going to go ahead and keep going. These are the population changes that we have covered before. Just a quick recap about the change in age. Previously, be up to 54. Now it's up to 64 as long as people have a dependent child under the age of 14, previously under 18. So there are, I forget if it's in the slide deck here, but there are now 7 rural counties that are now being counted with a work exemption or with ABOD exemption. And the reasoning behind that, well, 2 things. One is that as a state, we are allowed certain discretionary exemptions to these work requirements, and that limit has shrunk dramatically. But on the other hand, we do have a few, and so there, for these 7 rural counties that don't have a work source office in their county. So there's some more details of these SNAP work rule requirements. But I am, let's see, I did want to jump ahead. I apologize for just running through this, but it's a sort of a long slide deck. And this is a reminder that there's a 3-month limit for a 3-year period. Now, that's sort of weird. You think, well, when's the 3-year period start? It actually started at the beginning of last year. And so this 3-year period ends in 2027. And we recently then also were granted, due to so much of the uncertainty, for the counties that were not, for the counties that were not in the original 6 counties, the metropolitan areas of Multnomah and the surrounding region, there is now 1 month that wasn't counted. So again, we'll have to get more detailed information for you on those. But a review of the timelines. And I did want to get to the counties that I referenced earlier, that these 7 counties here, the Crook, Gilliam, Jefferson, Lake, Morrow, Sherman, and Wheeler, are now exempt from these work requirements. So, any questions about that? I'm going to just pause for a moment. Okay. And one thing that is that is changing is that Susan, so I'm not sure if there's someone here who wants to speak to that, but when it comes to lawful permanent residence, that is someone who is an immigrant and has legal status. I think there's a better legal definition out there, but that's what I'm referring to when I say an LPR, legal permanent resident. And they come in many varieties. So that's part of the reason I'm hesitant to go into any more detail. But these are the examples of the work hours required per month, any combination therein. And there's, in addition to people who are older, who have a dependent child, who lived in a waived area, or have one of these discretionary exemptions. Another discretionary exemption is if they're, let's see, well, let me just say that if they're more than half-time students at a post-secondary, or students nonetheless, and they're taking care of someone in a long-term care situation, or they have a disability themselves. These are all exemptions from these work requirements. And let me talk about some of the locations also.
James, really quick, before you go any further, there's a question in the chat. Can you describe what bartering means?
Yes, thank you. Bartering is, say someone is living in a rental and they're working for the landlord and getting free or reduced rent. That's an example of bartering. So those hours that they work, yes, that would be an example. There's many other types of things. Stephanie, thank you for that question. All right, and so
one other quick thing, James, I see that there's also a question about lawful permanent residents in the chat. James is going to cover that in just a couple of slides. So just as a note, he's going to talk more about that.
A little earlier, but yeah, I will also get to that in more detail. All right. So what this is our handy map of the 5 tribal areas. Note the places that have the question or the check marks. Those are the tribal areas that are exempt from the SNAP work requirements. Again, we're talking about people who don't meet those other exemptions, whether they're a student or have a disability or are older or have dependent children under 14. This is those people who already have an exemption of some sort. It doesn't matter, but those who don't, if they live in these areas, then in addition to the 7 rural counties, then they're also exempt from the work requirements. But the big message I can definitely share is we have a specialized team. If people have questions, this is a team that's trained specifically in these rules and will speak with clarity over a particular case. All right, now, if someone does have to meet the work requirement, they're going to be one of the probably the most direct ways is to get a referral to employment department. So, create a case plan, all these things that will hopefully improve their chances of getting a job soon down the road. They'll get an appointment at a local workforce center, and an employment specialist will be assigned to them. So there's plenty of opportunities. So again, it's something else that this new legislation is requiring us to be talking about and thinking about, but we're trying to make the most of it. As people apply, make sure that ODHS has current phone number and mailing address, all these things that I know as you help clients that you let them know about. But these are the types of things that they have to face. We have a few more slides about what has been going on with a lawfully present individual. It's a little bit of a history of what has been happening. I can go into more detail if you wish, but it's all here. And so for individuals, as Maria had mentioned, here's some of the more details about non-citizens who are eligible for a SNAP. So you have Cuban and Haitian entrants, COFA. COFA, I'm always forgetting this acronym. It's Confederation of so a free association. So these are three Micronesian, South Pacific islands, Micronesia, and I'm forgetting the other two. But these people are legal residents here. Compact of Free Association, thank you. And in any case, these individuals are, while not technically U.S. citizens, are eligible for SNAP. Now, the non-citizens eligible for SNAP, this is what I was referring to earlier, the lawful person, permanent residents. I think I said legal, lawful person, permanent residents. And we're going to dive into some of these details here, because there are all sorts of exceptions to this 5-year waiting period. Now, if they're under 18, if they've been working for 10 years, if they have a disability, if they are particularly old. I've always wondered about this fourth bullet point, because you work out the math, it's like, wow, they're about 90 years old. But nonetheless, that's something in the statute. Here's a vague point, U.S. military connection. Again, that'll be something to explore with the ABOD worker. If they're been admitted as an Amerasian immigrant or an American Indian born abroad, certain Hmong and Highland Laotian tribal members. So it's, you just know that somebody had a hankering in some judicial meeting somewhere to make a change, and they got it through. And so it becomes this hodgepodge of different things that get put into statute. And my office mate has opinions as well. So we have other people who may be exempt from this 5-year waiting period if they're been granted asylum as refugees. They're Iraqi and Afghan special immigrant visa holders. There's certain Afghan parolees as well, and certain Ukrainian parolees and victims of severe trafficking. So there's just many different items to indeed be aware of. So we'll be getting more detailed information out for you. Now, one of the bigger topics that I know is a concern and is what is going on with the data requests from USDA. I know there is a court case that is pending We don't know whether we have to turn over this information to the federal government or not. Obviously, we're not interested in doing that, but if we're compelled, then we're going to be forced to. Does someone have a question? So the USDA is asking for states to share detailed information. So how we got to this point, the Oregon Department of Justice filed a lawsuit along with several other states. On October 15th, we got won a court order, a court victory to stop this request from the USDA, and then they repeated in November and another objection in December. And so again, we're hoping to learn the result of this more and chances. Yeah. And so we will see what's happening. There's been threats of funding cuts, all sorts of different things. It's this world we live in. Now, in full transparency, there is information that has always been shared with the federal government. We share aggregated data that takes out personal information. Of course, that happens. And for quality checks, they will look at small samples, just random samples of 100 or so, to investigate accuracy. That's where our accuracy counts come from. But it's not, the federal government, as it says here, is not collected or stored all of the applicants' information. So just for completeness sake. But as a reminder, Oregon passed a law unanimously, late 80s or the early 90s, to make our state a sanctuary state, meaning that we don't spend state taxpayer money to do federal work. That's a simple explanation for it. If the federal government wants to enforce their laws, the federal government's going to have to spend their money to do it. Now, if federal government comes in and wants information, they have to present legal paperwork. We're going to check to make sure it's real and valid. They have to have a signed court order. So that's where we are. If you have further questions, the place to go with the most detailed information is the Department of Justice. If you already didn't know, here we go. But I don't have access to this link at the moment, but, well, actually, I guess I do. If you can take a screenshot, or I think that'll do it. Yep. So it's been a little while since I've looked at it. It has a lot of great information, though. And also, there is the Office of Immigrant and Refugee Advancement online. So that is also a wonderful source of information. So I urge you to take a look at that, because we're all in this together. It's not something even the state by itself don't do, but we need to get information out to people who need it. And it's the Office of Immigrant and Refugee Advancement, ORA, as we also like to use our acronym, is a trusted community, state, and national resource. It has these resources on it. So, and if you want to have messages about sanctuary laws in the state, we have these flyers as well. So I am going to hop ahead a little further and just point out that we do have flyers and help in various languages. And I'll just, I think I can. get this link as well in chat. Any questions? I wasn't sure how much time we're going to have, so it's I'm just sort of running through these things. Or if anyone has anything they'd like to add right now. I have a couple other things I want to talk about. Okay, you're still here, so you're going to hear me keep talking, because there are rumors and speculation flying around, sadly, justifiably so, about public charge. Now, public charge is when people are applying for lawful permanent resident status, or basically working with our immigration officials. And this one of the things in the past and currently that immigration officials look at is something called the public charge rule, and it affects some people. Right now, there is an effort by the federal government to change into a much vaguer worded statement. But keep in mind, at the moment, there's only 2 ODHS programs that can conceivably count against someone applying for a change in their immigration or their resident status. And that is long-term care through Medicaid-funded program, or TANF. Now, again, I want to emphasize the public charge has not changed the rules, but they are in the process of it. They were taking feedback that closed back in December, but that we don't know what is happening next on it. But for right now, there's no change. So I just wanted to make sure to clear that up. And as we already discussed, we're in the midst of the legislative session, and our agency is asking for some positions to try to keep up with all these changes in the work requirements. We have changes coming around the corner in Medicaid, where work requirements will also be included, but there'll be subtle differences. And so we need to make sure we're understanding all these differences and all these changes. It's quite a bit, and hence the desire for increased staffing. So we'll see. Right now, when people call, you have to wait for someone, and there's always a balance of, should we be having staff responding to calls or processing tasks? And you put too much in one end, and it's better, but then the other suffers. And so there's always a balancing act, and with fewer people, it makes that balancing act all the harder. So by getting more staff, we're hoping to reduce the wait times when people call, and wait times for people to have their application or whatever else processed. So we'll see. One thing that I should be plugging, and I didn't, is please encourage the people you work with to open a One account. This way they can find out information about their benefits, about when they need to renew, about their benefit amount. Any changes that happen, they can look it up themselves. And so, and we have a mobile app that allows, because let's face it, most people don't have a desktop computer. And so they can maintain their benefits on the phone, on their smartphone. Of course, you can't apply on the mobile app. Let's not get too organized here, but a lot of the maintenance can indeed be done. You can see all your notices. You can take a picture of your paycheck and get that inputted in. So there are plenty of options that help people if they open a One account. All right. Now, how do how are people going to keep up with all these changing informations that I sort of ran through earlier? Well, one of the ways that we hope you do that is to sign up for these webinars. And I see a question in chat. So a person still needs first to set up one account via computer and then, yeah. Well, it's possible to set up your one account on a mobile app. If someone already has benefits, they can set up an account either on a laptop or on a phone. It's a little easier on the laptop, but you can do it on the phone. And Cindy and whoever else that's interested, I can get you the instructions for those. All right, but on the screen right now is our Forward Together webinar schedule. And so I'll go ahead and put this link. So please consider joining these. That is done by a whole nifty team of people. And I'll be, I think if you ever go to those, sometimes I'm the person that's showing the slides, so I don't say anything. So it's a really good meeting in that way. Now, finally, we don't, I shouldn't have said finally, but in bonus, we also have Spanish Facebook live events. There's regular information that are interactive, like this is supposed to be, but I think they actually are more interactive. And if you are also, so you can see, you can get more information simply at the ODHS Espanol page on Facebook. Now, if you know people who are looking for food resources, this is important. We're making sure this is getting updated. If you go to this website, neatfood.oregon.gov, I'm not going to type that one in, but it's pretty straightforward. You'll, if you go to the bottom of the page, you'll see plenty of nifty flyers and information to help let your clients know about those. And finally, holy cow, the people talk about fraud. You hear people talking about fraud in SNAP. The biggest problem by far is people who have SNAP getting their information ripped off from them. You know, criminals will put in readers even in the stores, and it will literally read someone's card and get their information. So then by the time the person goes home, all their money from their SNAP account is gone. And it's been, many of you already have experienced this, having clients come to you. It's a significant problem. We've got information to help keep people alert as to what these problems and what to be on the lookout for. And so one thing I'm happy to share with you, though, is, okay, first it starts sort of bad. California recently put in a chip into their EBT cards. So it's much like a standard credit card where a chip reader then uses it. You don't have to swipe it anywhere. You just put it close to it, just like a credit card, and it'll read that. It's much more difficult for criminals to copy and steal that information. And so when California did that, they saw a dramatic decrease, something like 80%, the fraud in SNAP, an 80% decrease in the fraud. And I think that's what helped drive some of the criminals up to Oregon and start applying their work. Well, California has a little more money. Well, lo and behold, we are going to be doing that also. It needs to be done quickly before the federal matching rules change. But the plan is to indeed put a card in our EBT, or a chip in our EBT cards. So hopefully that will be rolling out, later this year. So I'm happy to share that information with you. But you can find out plenty more by keeping in touch with us on our social media and other places, or ask questions here. So I ran through this whole presentation. Do people have any comments, concerns, anything of the sort?
Hey James, this is Adam from the Snap unit.
Yeah. Oh
Just
boy.
wanted to throw a couple things out there to folks. Yeah, we're looking at getting the chip cards. A lot of it depends on legislative monies because they're not cheap. But that's definitely in the cards. We're hoping to do that sooner than later. Um, One of the things I want to ask or remind folks of is if they think that they have been a victim of that electronic fraud, please report it to your branch because they have reports that roll up to me and one of my coworkers. We're able to go in, and if it's a matter of like a falsified terminal that's, somebody's cloned cards or whatever, we can have those shut down. We work with the investigations unit to go out and pull skimming machines off of the actual card readers at stores and stuff. So the more we know about that, the better we're able to fight back against it. So I know folks will call a lot and just say they need a new card or they need their PIN changed. But if they do think that they've been a victim of that, have them report it so we can get that on our list. The other kind of good news thing is that this is finally on the Fed's radar. We actually met with some folks from Food and Nutrition Service earlier this week. They have some reports that they're working on that may make it a little easier to find the folks that are doing the skimming and scamming and all that not so fun stuff. And we also there was a press release, I think, late last month, but we had been working with the Office of the Inspector General of the USDA um, on a skimming ring here in Oregon, and that went to grand jury, and they got indictments on a number of people. And since that has happened, we've seen the skimming activity go down quite a bit. So that's a good thing. But if there's, like I said, if anybody catches it, please report it so we can clamp down on it as best we can.
Thank you, Adam, for that update. All right. So there we go. How are things going in your neck of the woods? Anything, any anecdote or any concern you want to share? Speaking of sharing, I'll stop sharing my screen.
So quiet out there.
I know. See, what I need to do is pick on a few people before the meeting so they'll be ready because I know I'm just catching everyone flat-footed. But we are about at time. And I want to thank you for all your work. Thank you for my colleagues for all their work, but mainly, yeah, it takes all of us in these difficult times uh, to make sure the Oregonians are getting the services they need and they deserve. So, thank you, and have a good Oregon birthday / Valentine's Day this weekend.
Thank you.
I think we're set. Thank you, interpreter. I should have thanked you guys. I forgot. Thank you for Spanish interpretation too. Right. Well, let's wrap this up then.
I don't know if I need to stay
I
for
do.
anything, James, or if you need anything
No.
else from me. This is the first time. So, okay. I saved the chat.
Oh,
I think that should work to help
Yep.
with minutes. I'll work with the interpreter stuff with Crystal. You don't have to worry about anything that I'm doing. But I'll
Okay.
get the minutes done and over to you. And I wanted to let you know I'll include those links that you shared in the chat too.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, sometimes I go over the video just for my notes too, but
Yeah.
when I used to do those, boy, I completely forgot about this meeting. I totally came in flat-footed, so I'm glad everything was going okay.
That's
Hopefully
okay.
it wasn't too obvious in my presentation, but
I mean, you just facilitated an entire hour, so good on you either way.
well, the facilitating isn't too bad. It's the presenting that it's just like, holy crap.
Yeah, you don't really think about it until it's on you.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, is it Samantha or Sam? I forgot.
Either one. I introduced myself as Samantha.
Okay.
But
well, thank you, Samantha. It was good to finally chat with you.
Yeah, you too. I'll get the minutes over really soon.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.